It says preparing. It says meeting is now streaming live on Facebook. Nackie, what's up?
What's up?
Nackie, we're gonna do a quiz. What is this? What team is this?
I have no idea. Don't
Who's
care.
unbeaten? Who's unbeaten?
Don't care.
About time we got to talk about that. But anyway, you don't have to be a Steelers fan to be on the Faika show. On the Faika broadcast, we have a special guest from up north by way of Sonoma County. Nackie, why don't you let us know who's on our show today?
We have Natashia Suka, who is the creator, the founder, the owner of Malama Sweets.
Yes.
And we can't wait to try everything. If you haven't gone up north, to go check her out, and she's going to tell us everything about her. She was born in Honolulu, Hawaii, and raised in the beautiful Sonoma County. She is what else? She's learned to cooking and food and everything, and her family has been her inspiration. We just want to learn everything about her. We learned about her and we're educated about her from the Poti family, Junior and Kim, who just talk highly of you. And so welcome to the show. If you can tell us a little bit about yourself and your family and how you started. Let's start there, and then we'll hit you with all our questions.
First, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. I'm super excited, even just to get to share a little bit and, hopefully inspire, other, younger generations or even people my age that are wanting to take a leap of faith and pursue their own business. So thank you for the platform. A little bit about me. As you said, I was born in Hawaii, raised out here in Sonoma County. In total, I am one of 7. And I am absolutely obsessed with my family. I think growing up for me, I had the opportunity to be raised in a Samoan church out here. Shout out Well Springs. That's where I feel like for me, a lot of like my cultural knowledge, and then also just kind of intervening God into my life is kind of where that platform sits. So so growing up, I think as the oldest daughter, there's a lot of already spoken responsibilities that come with that. So, when I talk about cooking and stuff, it was like growing up, it was, simple things as like doing the dishes, or in my household, it's cooking rice is not something that any of us really care to do. So that was kind of, for me, it was always an inconvenience where, I wanted to go and hang out, or I wanted to go and do what I wanted to do, but responsibility calls. Growing up, everything was based around our fellowshipping as a family was around food. And so holidays, I was very blessed that my parents' house was always the house. Every holiday gathering, any, big birthday gatherings, we had it here. So I've always, for me growing up, I mean, naturally eating is a thing, obviously, but, it was, it was bigger than, than eating. It was, for us, it was bonding and, things as simple as getting up early in the morning, to prep, stuff to cook for the day. And then, everyone coming together. For me, I was always excited to showcase, because I had friends, and even colleagues as an adult, they were like, oh my gosh, your family, like you guys cook for so many people. And, now for me, the joke is I don't know how to cook individual meals for just myself, because I'm acclimated to cooking for a large group. So yeah, that's kind of where the basis of my desire, and just my knowing how to cook comes from. In terms of Malamas and where that started, for me, food is my family's love language. And so by default, I have picked that up, where when I, want to gift someone something, or when I cook for them or whatever, there's a lot of love that goes into it. It's not just cooking for me. That's how, like I said, how I love on people. So Malama's originally from the beginning was actually called Love in Edible Form. And that was the initial name that I went with, because for me, like I said, it's my love language. And so 2 of my sisters, we embarked on doing a couple events, and I was really young. And I think at the time, not mature enough to take on the responsibility of really pursuing what I wanted to do, because I was still trying to grow in other areas of my life. Yeah. And so Love in Edible Form, it had a strong takeoff, but then eventually, family responsibilities, being an adult and working a job, those took precedence to my passion and what I wanted to pursue. So it ended up just remaining like a hobby or like a pastime thing, or if people needed something, or I would, make things for work holidays. That's how I kept my love for like wanting to bake and stuff going. So within the last, I'm going to say 8 years, I've taken the chance to attempt to pursue building my own business. And Malama is where the name comes from, is actually my grandma. My grandma her name is Malama, and I was one of the grandchildren fortunate enough to carry her name as my middle name. And for me, I was one of, try not to get emotional talking about her. I had her from the beginning, from the day I was born to the day she passed. So for me growing up, my grandma was someone where she was this pioneer that that kind of like superhero status, where like you subconsciously don't stop to think about the fact that, they're aging. And it wasn't until my grandma got sick. It was October 2010, she was diagnosed with sarcoma. And it was a pretty rapid process. When they diagnosed her, they gave us, I want to say they gave us a couple weeks. And so they did the dialysis thing to kind of give her some time so my uncles and aunties could come from Hawaii, bid their farewells and stuff. And we were blessed that we actually had her through to Thanksgiving. And so for me, this is my business is in homage to her. And the fact that, for me, in my eyes, she was the backbone of our family, and she was the one that, made sure that we always stayed together. And for me, food is what always keeps everyone together.
Right.
So yeah, that's the preface as far as, what has inspired me and where I've been. But I think in the last few years, for me, it's really been about, one, being a woman and really pursuing my passion. I think that that's a really big thing, to be that testament, and also, to the younger generations. I think for us kids, especially in the Samoan community, there's roles and there's responsibilities and there's expectations that we're raised with, that we're supposed to follow. And so sometimes when we kind of want to venture outside of that pathway, I feel that it's sometimes either just kind of overlooked or like it's not really taken seriously. And so for me, I kind of wanted to be that one. I wanted to be one of many that say, hey, you know what, like I took a chance, and I'm now in a space where I was very fortunate enough, to get some support to, now I'm registered as an LLC with the state. And, so just all the legalities and then learning along the way. It's a bigger beast than I would like, just because you can put me in a kitchen and I will do whatever. But when I have to sit and like the legal stuff and the paperwork and figuring out the numbers, I would rather not. But I know that, that's a part of the process. So now I'm just in a space of, continuing to grow my business. I definitely don't want to neglect the conversation of talking about, there's been a lot of error along the way. I've had, orders that I've flopped on. I'm still working on my island time, trying to be better about that, and just really trying to evolve as a human, as a woman, and as a businesswoman. So yeah.
You had talked about that you don't feel like when you first started, that you said your maturity level is different than it is this time around. Was there anything you think it just life experience that caused that maturity, or was there anything that is markedly different between you doing it now versus then?
I would say in terms of maturity, for me at the time, I was in my early 20s. So it was everything about, growing up, I was always, I had to be home and I had to be, attending to my responsibilities. So when I hit my 20s and I was out on my own, I wilded out and I wanted to go out and be social and, and do those things. And so I feel like in terms of, life experiences, that was a really big part of it. But I also do think that my maturity level, as far as like my ability to focus and hone in on what I needed to do to be successful, I wasn't really ready to commit to that. And so I think that's what differentiates who I was then to where I am now, where I'm ready to take on that responsibility. But I also do want to say that the sense of how much I believe in myself and how much faith I have in my craft and how what it means to me and who I've named it after, it weighs a lot heavier now than it did when I was younger.
Wow, that's crazy amazing. Have you always lived in Northern California? Like, did your parents, are they from here or
So my
Samoa?
yeah, so my dad actually is from Malua. That's where my dad is from. And then my mom, she was born and raised in Hawaii. And my grandma's family is from Aunu. So that's,
Wow.
yeah. So for me, I've not ever been to Samoa, but I'm very fortunate that out of my siblings, I speak it the most and I understand it the most. So I'm very thankful for that. I still have a lot of learning to do in regards to my linguistics, but I definitely, I feel like I've acquired enough of that, to at least carry casual conversations. But yeah, for the most part, I've lived here. I graduated from Windsor High School. So most people know where Santa Rosa is. And I actually live about 15 minutes north of Santa Rosa. So where I live at the time growing up,
Like Healdsburg?
right. So right in between Santa Rosa and Hillsburg. So I'm right before Hillsburg.
Okay.
And when we had just moved here, it was still really I'm gonna use the word underdeveloped in terms of where if you see Windsor now versus when I moved in, there's a lot more, I'm gonna say gentrification, because for me, when I moved here, there was a lot of either, there wasn't very many Polynesians. And when I was in school, it was either you were Palangi or you were Mexican, and there was like a 2% of the in-betweens, and I was one of those. So now I think that our Pacific Islander community in Sonoma County as a whole has definitely grown, and then I'm here for all of it. I was very fortunate. My dad, when he came from Samoa, he did the whole thing of playing the football at the JC, and he actually works for PG&E. And along the way of his journey, he acquired a Calabash family, which is like all the local boys from Hawaii that came here. They all played ball together. So I have this beautiful extended local family. And I'm very, very blessed. I'm very blessed to have tons and tons of cousins and aunties and uncles. But yeah, growing up, I'd be like, oh, I don't want to say I'm from Santa Rosa. I don't want to say I'm from Sonoma County. So we used to generalize it and say, oh, we're from the Bay Area, and now for me as an adult, I find so much pride in being where I am from, just because it's like, I value the small city feel. I like going and supporting local groceries versus these big box companies, and just being able to have that experience. And I think in addition to that, being from Northern California in general, we get a lot more, things like fresh produce and stuff like that, farmers markets and those things. I thrive on that. So I'm very blessed to live in a community where a lot of that is accessible and available to me.
I think I went to Sac State in the mid 80s, and there was a whole group of local people from Hawaii that like there's a pipeline from Hawaii to Santa Rosa JC. There is a whole bunch of
Agreed.
PIs that go to that JC. So we would go to Santa Rosa to hang out with, and there was like 6 or 7 people that the polys in Sacramento from Hawaii knew that group. So we would be in Santa Rosa a lot. But yeah, it was like everybody was somehow connected to the school, like people that weren't going to the school, they were the PIs that were there. But it's nice to see that it's grown beyond just the football players. I think Tua Tagovailoa's father, when I can't remember, he played somewhere in Sonoma County, but you had talked about the language and the culture, and I think that's something that a lot of the Samoans or Pacific Islanders raised mainly in the mainland are really thirsty for. Like there's a ton of language, culture, and not just Samoan. I mean, there's Hawaiian, there's Fijian, there's Maori, and so it's interesting that there's just this thirst for the culture and the language by kind of a generation that didn't get not left they didn't get left behind, but it's like they weren't raised in the culture. Do you find that something that is more important to you now as you you're involved with your business, the maturity levels there? Do you find yourself looking for those kind of things?
Most definitely. So for me, I am actually someone in Tokelauan. So for me, growing up, there was always this major sense of pride in my bloodline and in being who I am and what makes me me and what sets me apart from my surrounding community, right? So for me, the way that my mother had raised me, I never knew the difference between me and a Parangi kid or, me and any other race. For me, was we were all the same. Granted, I was probably 2 feet taller than everybody in the 4th grade, but nonetheless, that, never really impacted my life. So I'm very blessed that I dodged the bullet of being bullied for being different. But for me, that thirst and then that desire to want to be so integrated and so so educated in terms of my culture, that's always been an existing thing for me. I think for me, growing up, we would always, summertime and stuff, we would go to Hawaii and to go visit my family. And I always would tell my mom that, like, for me, they say home is where the heart is. And I always felt like the moment that we walked into the airport and the air hit my face, that I knew where I belonged and I knew I was home. And so that has always been ingrained in me. And I think, again, just to reference the church that I grew up in, because I was fortunate to grow up with a lot of other Samoan kids that were my age, there was this almost, I don't want to call it social club, but kind of, it was like I knew on Saturdays and Sundays, we were at the Famua, we were doing Bese, Alcolvo stuff, so I feel like that's why I say I was very fortunate to be exposed to that, because there are a lot of Pacific Islander, youth and even adults that, that exposure, I mean, we never got it, so I cling very tightly to that, because that was all I got growing up. That's what kept me connected. And I think that for those of us that are raised in a home where that Polynesian structure is still applied, that you don't really like, that's what makes you crave that, where you want to know more. And that was for me, like the speaking Samoan, that stemmed from my grandma. My grandma didn't speak a lot of English. My grandma could play bingo, I promise you that. But in terms of having conversation and in terms of me understand, or, if she was okaying me, then I knew what time it was, but for me, I wanted to be more than that. I wanted to be someone that not only understood what she was saying, but I wanted to be someone that when we were out in society, whether it was a grocery store or bingo or whatever the case may be, that she had someone who could vouch for her. And I think that was why for me, I didn't really learn to value my grandma until my grandma got sick. Because when we had to take her to her doctor's appointments and me watching her actually be tired for the first time in my life, but then being able to sit with her and translate what I could so she could understand what was being said, it was everything to me. And so for me, it's like I always, when people ask, oh, how is it, where did you learn to speak? I always put the disclaimer that don't have a full-blown conversation with me, because at some point I might tell you to stop, or I might be like, but I credit her, because that was really where, as a kid, that was where that desire came from. So
those minutes are so precious with the elders.
100%.
I think somewhere bingo is in our DNA somewhere.
I
It
tell you
doesn't
what,
matter where the Samoans are, they know where the bingo hall is.
and I attest to that for sure.
That's so true. I know my mom, when she comes here, I don't play bingo. I don't know where there's a bingo hall, but when she lands, she's like, drop me off at so-and-so. There's a bingo going on there. I was like, lady, you just got here. How do you know that? And she's from San Diego. So we're like dropping her off at these unknown places, but that's so true about bingo. And so there's a lot of people shouting you. There's a Valerie Cloud who is shouting you out. Dita Ngauteote, Epi Amavai, Eddie Unatoa, Ellie Tuitau. There's just a ton. Fia, Esther is on. Tons and tons of people are on, just wishing you love, and they probably are going to check out Malama Sweets, and so
we always joke we count down in our show, like, oh, we're 14 minutes in and we're talking about food already. we're excited about this show because we're just going to talk about food the whole time.
It's so funny you mentioned that because I think for us too, like as a family, like we'll be at dinner and then the following conversation is like especially if we're on vacation, is okay, well, what are we eating tomorrow?
Right.
And dude, how are you on a full stomach still wondering when your next meal and what it's gonna be?
No. Luisa Tua is on and says,
Oh, hi, Isa.
yeah. So. Are you planning on having a space somewhere? Are you just basically ordering, people can order from you online and?
So currently right now, I do just take orders online, either via text, via DM message, what the case may be. In terms of what I project in the future, there's been conversation around a food truck. Just because in addition to baking and stuff, my family, they're stellar. They help me with plate sales when I do plate sales.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so I'm very, very blessed in that regard in terms of having hands on deck. I'm always covered and I'm very fortunate. I personally, when people ask me like, oh, when you were little, like, what did you dream of? I always envisioned this like little hole in the wall mom and pop shop that was a bakery / floral shop. I absolutely love flowers and everything that they resemble and symbolize. So that's always been a thing for me. But I think over the years, that's evolved just because I want to be able to spread it out. I want to be able to, not just, offer things in Sonoma County. I want to be able to travel to the Bay Area, maybe even one day SoCal. So as of right now, things are still kind of in the air in terms of what direction I will venture in, but I am going to say that I think mobile is what it's going to end up being.
Yeah, I think that's a really smart idea, especially since with the pandemic, there's a distance in the mobile trucks and easy access to, I'm here, I'm there. And there's been a lot of successful businesses doing the mobile truck or catering. So what are some of your favorite dishes that are just yours and yours alone or are there dishes that you make that no one else makes?
In terms of food, I'm gonna say that, okay, so the cool thing about my cooking, I don't know, call it what I do, I can cook just about anything. So for me, when people like they request plate sales and stuff, they're like, oh, okay, like I just want to eat Hawaiian barbecue. I'm like, cool, but like I can cook Mexican, I can cook Italian. And so in terms of what I like to eat for myself that I maybe haven't put out to sell yet, for those of you that are watching that are like, hey, she hasn't sold that. Mexican food is my absolute first love. But Italian food is kind of my thing. That's what I feel like I'm most comfortable in cooking. In terms of what I offer, I do like a panko shrimp with a sriracha aioli that's like very popular.
Ooh.
Yeah. And then yeah. So my last plate sale, I actually did, I did panko chicken, panko shrimp, and then we grilled chicken. And so like my marinades and everything I make is from scratch. So like the marinades are not, it's not Yoshida for everyone who's waiting to see if I'm going to do and that's kind of, again, what I pride myself in, where my ingredients come from and being able to say that I can speak to all of them. But I would say that my teriyaki chicken is killer with the sauce. And then the panko shrimp is a pretty popular one where when I put that out, everyone goes nuts over it. So
Kaleo says it's the secret menu sushi for me.
So he's talking about the sushi pan. My mom actually is the creator of it. So it's basically like imitation crab, and then we take dehydrated shiitake, rehydrate it, cut it up, mix it with like some sauce, and then we bake it over rice. And then you eat it with like the nori sheets. Oh my, yeah. So that is one of the appetizers or pupus where when it shows up to a party, it's maybe like 10-15 minutes at most, unless someone hides it.
Man.
Oh my God.
We're gonna have to do another, like either I can come and bring stuff just for you guys to try, just so that way, there's you guys can attest to saying you guys have tried my stuff. Uncle Paul, if you're watching, he's always been bugging my pineapple pies. And that's something that, yeah. So half moon pies is one of the things in terms of desserts that I know that everybody makes them, and I'm pretty sure everyone swears to their recipe being the best because it's their grandma's. But that's what I hang my hat on. I hang my hat on you know, on her recipe, because for me as a kid, that is where like what I tie that into, you know, her getting me up in the morning and having me stir the pot. And, you know, as a kid half awake, you don't want to be doing that, you know, but now it's like to be able to make her pies and to have my mom or my auntie say that it tastes almost like my grandma's is all the co-signing that I need to know that my stuff is good.
It's interesting. A lot of times the like, what's your personal, when we talk to people that have that cook, we'll ask like, what's your favorite dish? What's your favorite thing to cook? And then maybe what's the most popular thing on the menu? And a lot of people, like when we first started asking these questions, we kind of thought that, you know, they'd all be the same, or two or three of them would be the same. And a lot of times we find out that like the most popular thing on the menu is X. That's not my favorite, but or my favorite thing to cook is this. So is your favorite thing on the menu personally for yourself, like your own taste, like you're going to eat it? Is it the pineapple pie, or what is the one that you feel the most when you eat?
My guilty pleasure, I'm going to say, is a toss up between my pineapple pie and my guava cake. Those
Oh,
are two
Guava
things.
cake.
you got to throw guava cake in there too.
Yeah, yes, I did. And so, for me, I am a sucker for cream cheese, almost anything. So for me, cream cheese frosting was a really big, I just can eat that with anything. So yeah, so my guava cake, I'm very proud of. When I first started making it, people always ask me, oh, like, what is the recipe? I started with a strawberry flavored cake box mix. And they have like a little hack recipe for that. But over the years and trying to venture out and make things my own flavor, even though it's like a popular dessert, I want things like when people eat mine versus tasting someone else's, I want them to be able to say, oh, that's Tasha's. I know she made that.
Okay, so somebody just put their stamp on it. Sarah Wong King Tanvasa said she makes a mean guava cake. We love Sarah, so
I appreciate you, sis.
her word for it. And we're gonna order us some guava cake.
Yeah, so that's definitely my guava cake. That actually is my most popular item. That is something that will always fly out the door. When I get new Pacific Islander clientele, it's always like, okay, well, I seen your guava cake, and I will always co-sign that, because for me, I love guava, period.
Yeah.
But my guava cake is, yeah, I'm very, 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 very proud of it. And then my pies, for me, I mean, I love pineapple and guava. Those are two of my favorite flavors anyway. So you really, I feel like, can't go wrong with either one. But growing up, for me, the pineapple pies that I ate were like either mixed with like a vanilla pudding, or, you know, there was, so I don't use anything but pineapple. And that's, yeah. And so that's something for me that I'm very proud of. So
I'm making my list now.
I know. Every time she says something else, I'm like, and that one, we're gonna have that, and then we're gonna have that too.
Yeah, because lately the pineapple pies that I've been having, people have been putting vanilla pudding or some kind of pudding in it, where I just no.
No,
We still eat it, but it's not like our favorite.
I'm a fat cow, but I haven't had a really good pineapple pie, so I'm anxious to try one of your pies.
Guava cake. We got a long list now. Guava cake, pineapple pie. So there's the two of the questions. Your favorite, and the guava cake is one of your most popular.
Yes.
When you're making something, is there a particular dish that you make and has special meaning, like that you see your grandmother doing it, or is there anything that you make that's special to you as you make it?
I think in terms of things that I make, this is going to sound corny, but it all renders special to me, just because with every order that I may bake or something that I cook, there is a family tie to something. And so for me, I think then that's why my love of cooking and baking is what it is, because there's a lot of fond memories. I'm gonna hone in on baking. So I have an 8-year-old nephew. His name is Julian, and he has picked up my love for baking. Like I will find him at night. He's on kids YouTube, and he's looking up like frosting cakes and all these little things. And so for me, in moments when I feel exhausted or when I feel overwhelmed or whatever the case may be, him and his siblings are my reminder that I have people that are looking to me and they see what I'm doing, and not necessarily yet emulating my behavior, but they see my passion for it, and it makes them excited and they're interested in it. I have a 2-year-old goddaughter, and she's another one where she sees me in the kitchen, and if she sees me at the counter and she sees this motion, all I hear is, Tia, what doing? And so for me, it's the little voices that encourage me, and excite me, to cook and to bake. So nothing necessarily special yet. I mean, my mom, I'm starting to hone in on recipes that my grandma has taught her and learning those. And that's probably the most special for me, is those moments. Because I think growing up, I took for granted, my mom cooking or my dad barbecuing outside, where it's like, you just, as a kid, it's like, you just know that they're cooking and it is what it is, but when you really understand, what it means to be feeding your family and what it means to be feeding people and satisfying a hunger, that's just for me what makes everything worth it. So
What is your parents' favorite?
my mom's a favorite. So my dad's hands down is the pies. When I make the pies, he's stoked. It's
No
it's a lot of work to make the pies. And so for me, when they do come around, it's actually, my dad is pies anything. Because I just made hand apple pies a few weeks ago, and he's like, oh, I don't want it. I'm like, okay, but here anyway, just take a bite. But anyways, that's that. My mom, hands down. So I make a peanut butter cupcake. And that is
too.
And so for all of you chocolate people, I have options for y'all too. That is my mom's absolute favorite. So it's basically, I'll give you guys the details of the cupcake. It's a chocolate cake. I bake a Reese's cup inside, and then I make a peanut butter frosting. And that's, oh my gosh, I'm not even because it's mine, but with a cold glass of milk, it is everything. So yeah.
So Longy says, don't forget the pie fala cupcake.
Oh, okay, go ahead. That's my sister. I appreciate you. So the Baifala cupcake. So that's another thing that how my mind works is I try to take things that were, things like the Baifala and figuring a way how to put it into a cupcake, or things like strawberry cheesecake, which is a cupcake that I do, and putting that into a cupcake. So the Baifala cupcake that I haven't released, I've only done it with my family a few times until I get it completely right, is I do a basic shortbread crust on the bottom, a vanilla cake, and then I make the half moon pie filling, and I fill it with the cupcake. I fill the cupcake with it, and then it's a cream cheese frosting.
Oh my God.
I may have
released it yet, girl.
So I think that's the other thing too that I absolutely adore about cooking and baking, is that there's so much innovation that goes into it, right? And I feel like the level of creativity is absolutely limitless, where it's like, if you can have, and that's what I tell people. So side note, I'm running in this baking competition right now, and they had asked a question of oh, what is a recipe of yours that's the best? Well, I firmly believe that you can give 5 bakers the same recipe, and their techniques and the quality of their ingredients is what differentiates it, right? And so I'm always someone of I will always give a base recipe to whoever, because that's how I started. And it literally is cooking, baking, it literally is what you make it and what makes you happy, well, and your family, of course. But yeah, so that's the Baifala cupcake.
Okay, we're going to do this twice in the show, at least. We're going to get your information into the chat of where people can order, because I'm ready to drive to Santa Rosa.
I was like, what is that? Oh my God.
You
finish the show, Nackie. I'm getting in my car.
Well, I need a couple of days notice. I can be prepared.
Oh my God. Everything sounds so good. So
Thank
good.
You.
And Kim Potsi and Junior Potsi had turned us on to you when they came on the show, and they were just like, you gotta have everything. Like, I'm not sure what they had, but they're like, everything she puts her hands on is amazing. And so I was like, oh my
And we
God.
don't care. Like that's perfect with us. Like we'll we'll have it all.
COVID regulations, I wear gloves and a mask now. I'm just saying this so we're on the same page.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I absolutely, Uncle Junior and Auntie Kim, I love them very much. They are a part of that extended family that I shared about, you know, where it's like, I am so blessed. I mean, with how much love I receive from my family and from my family's family and from friends, God has been really good to me. And, you know, in terms of the love around me, but in addition to that, this craft that I have, you know, because I just, I absolutely, it's my therapy. You know, there are days, let's be honest, that like, I don't want to cook, I don't do anything, you know, tired from work. But at the same time, it's like once I get into the groove of it, I'm like where I want to be. So,
How are you dealing with COVID? Like, how is that? Has business been picking up? Is it the same? And are you working from home? Are you going into work?
so I have my own separate office. I do concrete dispatch. So I'm fortunate enough to where I work in a yard where my excuse is the guys are all too dirty to come inside, so they can't come inside. And if they do, they stay within 6 feet from my desk. So I'm very fortunate to have that as a space. In terms of how COVID impacted my business, when it initially hit, I was actually booked out through to June.
Wow.
And so that obviously, you know, everyone had to postpone or cancel or, you know, whatever the case may be. And for me, I didn't really take as much of a financial blow because I'm working still. But I think in terms of my growth and stuff, it definitely intimidated me, I'm going to say, because, you know, it's like when you kind of hit the ground running and then you hit a dip in the road, you kind of question things. And so that's kind of where I was like, well, you know, we'll sit it on the back burner. And you know, we'll get back to it, you know, when, you know, God willing, and when time prevents, you know, makes way for it. So I think throughout the summer I did have a few gigs of, you know, and I did have a few plate sales. But I think because I tried to do it for a year where I completely quit my job and I was baking and cooking, and it was fun and it was exhilarating until it was time to need medical benefits. Then it's like not fun. So kind of got my reality check there. Also too, you know, my mom, God bless her, she's always been pretty big on making sure that, you know, your medical benefits are very important, you know, especially obviously with COVID being in play. And yeah, so that was pretty big in terms of, you know, the last couple months. I've been blessed to still bring in business. But I'm currently in a space of trying to find my life work balance, or life work business balance, I guess. But yeah, it's not impacted me too much to where I say, oh, you know, that I was taking L's for a while. But it's, you know, COVID's done its thing for sure.
For real.
You can make it now if you can get through this. You know what I mean? And I mean it's like 2020. If people, what is this? That doesn't kill you, makes you strong. Like you get through 2020, like you got through something. And if you
Right.
get through it with your business, I think I love the truck idea because um, as a people, we go to events, like we go to, you know, concerts, we go to, you know, just these big cultural events and dance competitions and all those kind of things. And being able to take the food to the community is huge. And you know, Nackie and I are old enough to remember where nobody would eat from a truck. It was a roach coach, and you could eat out of it, but you don't want to see anybody seeing you go eat at it, right? So he would run over there, get it, and just, you know, run off. It was like a bad thing. It was like a dirty thing to eat from we call it a roach coach or something. And now it's become this really cool, you know, in that cool industry of great food. Or
Mhm.
before, like I said, like 30 years ago, those were 30, 40 years ago, it was like you could eat from it, but you never told anybody.
So funny you say roach coach. So growing up, that was a phrase that I remember my dad using regularly, is roach coach. So I can definitely resonate with the concept of it, you know, being something that, you know, no one really gloated about. And I think that's, for me, another reason why I feel very blessed to be in the time that I am in, because, you know, food trucks and even just, you know, people stepping out of, you know, their comfort zone and trying to pursue a business. It's, you know, it's a trending thing, you know, everyone is feeling bold and everyone is feeling, you know, risky even. And I think that that's a beautiful thing. You know, I mean, I think that it's great, you know, and to pursue your passions. And if it's something that you feel compelled to do, you know, then do it. And so for me, in addition to just wanting to really get out there and live my passion out, my mom actually, she started a homeless, what is it? I'm looking for the word, I can't find it. A homeless feeding within the youth group of the church that we attended. And that was like a bigger piece to it, right? Because I think for me, I don't want it to be just having a business. I want to have a business that not only is going to, you know, reap success, but also be able to pour back into the community.
Right.
You know, and I feel like, you know, more often than not, you know, the homeless community is disregarded. And so through my mom and her ministry that she had started, you know, and just the level of compassion that comes with, you know, the blended lines of just seeing people as people and not, you know, identifying by social ranks, that also is a very big deal to me as well. So I think also, you know, in addition to utilizing the truck to, you know, be mobile to get, because that's my biggest thing. I always have people in the Bay that are like, where are you located? And as soon as I'm like, Sonoma, kind of like, nah, we're not making that drive. And I always tell people one day I'm going to be able to make it out there. And so that's definitely a goal for me, but also, you know, sewing back into my own community and, you know, like I said, you know, just being, a flicker of light of inspiration, you know, for these younger generations that, you know, might be too afraid to pursue it. You know, I will say, like my mom has told me, as long as you have a backup plan and as long as you have your ducks in a row and everything works out, you know, and you're ready, then jump by all means.
That's awesome. I think we always promote that as to follow your heart and your passion, and it takes some work, but if you love it, it doesn't feel like work. You know, if somebody's outside watching you, they're like, "Oh my God, that's so much work." But to you, it's not work because it's something that you love. And we always talk about your, you know, for your nieces and your goddaughter or your godchildren, you know, they're watching you and you're showing them that they can do whatever they want to do if they just put their heart into it. So
Agreed.
we're so grateful that you're here to share your story. Again, if now do you have a page for Malama Sweets?
So webpage not up yet, but I do business off of my Instagram. I'll actually plug in here. Let me do it right now. I try to keep my phone up so I can like read comments and like,
Yeah.
I can't do it as much as I talk. I can't do it.
Yes.
I'm
We
gonna
always
draw.
talk about how we're always on stage, and you know your actions are viewed by people you don't even know there, or you don't know that they're viewed and cared, or they're viewed and measured, or you know really perceived. And you know following your passion, and then you can say it. You can say, look, you should follow your passion because you know if I'm at a job that I hate and I'm going to that job every day, one, that's too tough of a life for me. I can't do that. Like I don't have it in me. Two, I can't look at my kids and say, you need to follow your passion, because then looking at me going, well, what are you talking about? You talk about hating your job every day. So we are always on stage, and there will be some little girl, some little boy, somebody that sees you and never tells you what it meant to them. So
Right.
they'll see you and they'll model something after you, and you never even know, you know, they don't, sometimes they don't call you up and say like, you know, I didn't even think about it until after my first grade teacher had passed away. She was a key part in my life of teaching me how to read, and I mean, really read. And I thought, man, I should call her up and thank her. This is about 15 years ago. I'm like, I should call her up and thank her. She had already passed away, but it's just one of those examples of like the shadow that you cast, or that you're always on stage. Like she never, you know, she probably never knew that how much her class meant to me.
No, and I definitely, I think that that's huge. I mean, because it's like you said, like you just never know who's watching, you know. But I think also too, one of the biggest things in life in general, business aside, I'm very big about speaking to the flaws that come with it. You know, like I don't want, for those of you that are listening and feeling inspired, there are days of failure. There are days where you're gonna miss, and there are days where you're product isn't going to work out the way you want it, or you can have things listed and planned out, but sometimes like, and that's why for me, like in my own personal growth, learning to make sure that my planning process is as close to immaculate as I can get it, and also holding myself accountable to that. Even if I'm tired, or if I'm if I'm stressed or whatever it is, I am still learning the value of separating. At work, it was always like, oh, check your personal stuff at the door, and this is business, and that's what I tell my kids at work. But then yet for me, I'm still learning to hold myself accountable, to eat my own advice, right? Because there are days where I don't want to do anything, and there are or there are days where my ingredients or my frosting is flopping and it's too watery, or my cake keeps coming out dry, or my oven doesn't work, and I just want to throw in the towel and cry. Don't do it. Finish it first and then cry after. Right. And I think too that it's always really big to be accountable, to when you do mess up, or when you do, impact, if you hurt someone, or if you mess up on an order, go back and be accountable to that. I've learned from my mom as well, the level of, the importance and value of accountability, and what it means to be a good business person, or a good person in general, and really just owning up, to shortcomings, because those come, it's not just, oh, everything's bliss and flowers and running through meadows. Like, no, there's plenty of burnt cake, burnt food, hot oil. There's plenty of that. So
I think the being able to deal with failure is more important than knowing how to deal with success.
Agreed.
Because ultimately you're going to have failure. There's going to be failure, and you're going to have to figure out how to overcome it and deal with it correctly, and not accept it. I'm not saying like just accept failure and then
right.
Repeatedly accept it, but to help deal with it in a healthy way is more valuable than dealing. Only it's easy to deal with winning. Hell, you win, you feel good. Everybody
right.
feels good with you, celebrate with you. That's easy. It's when you fall down, like you said, you got a bad day. And entrepreneurs get that, because the highs and lows with entrepreneurs, not to talk down on anybody else's highs and lows, but
right.
when you're pouring your heart and soul into your product or into your business and stuff doesn't work out, man, Nackie and I have, as we build our business, there's times where we're like, this sucks. Like, this doesn't feel good at all. But how do we deal with it? Yeah, how do we deal with it? So, yeah, those are great words, and I know they're going to touch somebody that's listening. I know you're going to touch my taste buds.
I got you. Don't worry, Carl. We're going to make that happen.
Yung Suk.
Oh yes.
Nacha Vince via Lua is sending up fire. So
hey, I love y'all.
Hey,
I am so thankful. That's so amazing. And honestly, like, that was the reason why initially when you guys had reached out, why I was so excited, because for me, it's like, I'm very much a person of like, yo, who am I? Who am I that, I would, stand out in a crowd. And I'm also very much one of those behind the scenes kind of people to begin with. So for me, I look at this opportunity as, I'm excited because I want, people to see that like you could be there. And because I think for me, like I followed you guys for a very long time, and I love how involved you guys are within the community. That's why for me, sometimes I'm like, oh, I just wish I'd lived in the Bay, because I would be just forehead deep in whatever it is going on. But you guys also inspire me, how important it is, to stay connected and to support each other, even amidst COVID restrictions and having to Zoom versus meeting in person. The value of staying connected as a community and as a people, that means everything to me. So, when Carl, you talk about the little boy, little girl that, might, watch my behavior, even these young college kids or high school kids that are watching this, like, take the jump, but make sure, you have the proper support. And if I can do it, y'all,
yeah,
we gonna do it.
Well, and we were on a show yesterday with three, like a 22-year-old and two 18-year-olds. Like, I was inspired by them. Like, they were, just because of who they were and how they held themselves, how much more they knew than when I was 18 or 22. And I was inspired by them. So being a good role model usually you look to the older generation for examples and those kind of things, but I can find inspiration in entrepreneurial spirit, all those kind of things, that it makes having people like you makes our job just that much easier, because we're just trying to shine light on people that are winning in life, we call it.
Yes.
So having you out there to talk to, especially the referral, like we always talk about that Junior's the one that referred, because he came to the studio.
Right.
And good, people, these kind of people hang around with each other. Like good people hang around with each other. So you get the referral, like, you got to have this lady on. And we were like, well, one, it's food. Of course, we're going to say yes. But two, it's the
Right.
reference, from a really good person. So we were like, yeah, the food's it's a secondary positive, but having a, entrepreneur, a role model, somebody to come out there and be that for, people to be inspired by. That's the big feast. The food, yeah, we're gonna keep that
No,
too. That's a benefit
yes,
too.
no, 100%. No, and I appreciate that. I mean, and when you mentioned being inspired, without the age barrier, I definitely agree to that. My older brother and my younger siblings, they're all college graduates. I'm the only kid that didn't go, and it's fine. But for me, their journey, and getting to bear witness, because for me, I mean, as collegiate athletes, it's a business. I've learned that much, and so watching their determination and their drive and their level of commitment, it inspires me, and it's something that I'm still, working on, integrating into who I am as a person. But I can definitely attest to that too. And I think that's another thing, within our culture, that it's that whole like, oh, when is there an age of validation where you're allowed to be influential? It's like as a kid, there's kind of just this overlooking, or like if you have an opinion as a child, or whatever, it's like, yeah, you're kind of just pushed
Right.
aside. And so I think that, right. And so even more so for me, it's like, really normalizing, being able to be inspired and being able to be educated, no matter the age. It's like, I try to explain sometimes to my nephew when he's mad at his dad because he spoke at him. I'm like, listen, parents are still learning too. Like even I said, even for me at the grown age that I am, I said, I'm pretty sure Gma and Papa are still having, to learn things, to teach me and that. So it's just an ongoing process of learning. So
Continuous. Yeah, that's awesome. Again, we go to Instagram, malamas_eats, and you will find wonderful, wonderful food there. We are so grateful. The hour is up, and we're so grateful to have had you on.
thank
We're
you.
inspired by your work. We're inspired by the life that you're living, to share and to grow and to inspire the kids around you and your family. And you were saying that you didn't choose the college route, and I didn't either, and my brothers did. And I think it's just, it wasn't the road for you, just like it wasn't the road for me. And I think success comes in all kinds of, lights, right? And so
Okay.
you don't, like, Carl is super smart. Like everybody always talks about, I mean, he is super smart. To me, he's super smart. And I'm just like, I'm street smart. I'm street. But, we are totally different people, but we click, and our business works because just the combination of what we have, and I don't think that college is, I push my kids to go to college because it took me a hard road, but college isn't for everyone, and you have to do what makes you happy. And I really believe that I can see it in your face and in your aura. I'm an aura person, that you really are doing what makes you happy. And that is a blessing, to find what your passion at such a young age. Like it took me forever, but if we can get people to understand that, how freeing it is to find your passion, to actually do the work that you love. Oh my God, it's so amazing. And we're so proud of you. And thank you so much for coming on here. And we're gonna order our stuff from you.
Oh yeah, no,
Wow.
let's definitely connect on that 100%.
We're going to get that out one more time. If you can get out any of your social media, any of the shout outs that if you got them, go ahead and get them in, but make sure that you get how people can get their taste buds on your food.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So, like Nike said, on Instagram, Malamas_eats. Also, feel free to friend me on my personal Facebook page, Natashia Suka. My phone number is blasted all over social media. Back in the day, that used to freak me out, but now I'm totally good with it. Shoot me a text. My email also is in my bio on my Instagram. I'm pretty flexible. I'm not one of those people that are like,
Oh
oh,
my God, so
Aw.
cute.
hi, Alexa.
Hi, Alexa.
Say hi. Say hi. This is who was screaming and who was at the door. So
Oh,
because we're
So
wrapping.
beautiful.
Thank you. But yeah, so I'm pretty basic. However you need to reach me, I'm open to it. Email, give me a call, shoot me a text, hit me with a DM, a private message on Facebook. I welcome all of it.
Okay.
awesome.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. And I'm not playing. We're gonna connect about this food, all these cakes and pies.
Oh,
We're gonna do that.
won't forget.
When we get our studio, we will have, and COVID goes away when we get our lives back. We're definitely going to have you in the studio as a in-studio guest. So there you have it. That's a Pacific Islander lady that's doing it with her grandmother in her grandmother's namesake. That's a lot of responsibility to carry. Winning in life, Natashia Suka. Follow her on Instagram at Malama_eats, and also on her Facebook, her personal Facebook. She's putting that out there. However, you got to get your mouth on the food. Do what you got to do, because we're going to do that. So thank you so much.
Very good.
Have a great evening. We love you.
Thank you. God bless you guys.
God bless
Bless you.
you.
Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye, baby.
Oh.